On the breakdown, a recent video that has astonished the internet, challenging people's imaginations. Now, typically when people ice skate, they can't see what is beneath the thick slab of ice. It's usually opaque. But this video is challenging skating expectations and shocking millions around the globe, where skaters can see below a transparent glass ice window. We wanted to find out how this happens and explain this very rare phenomenon with Kevin McKay, who tells us it's a phenomenon that has everything to do with timing.
Timing and luck. It's a bit of a Goldilocks situation. It needs to be really cold, but really dry and really calm. So you need to be basically right under an area of high pressure. And the water helps too. So you don't want any waves when it's forming. And you certainly don't want any snow falling.
And not a lot of wind as well. Once in a decade type phenomenon it's been called. Let's also talk about the fact that, you know, it reminds me of that amazing imaginative moment where you pretend you're walking on water or walking on air, and it's because of that transparency. You know, this is ice that's meters thick, but it looks like a thin sheet of ice. Normally water is super murky and super muddy, but let's talk a little bit about where this is situated. Rabbit Lake, Alaska. It's 3,000 or about 3,000 feet or about 1,000 meters above sea level, and maybe this has something to do with the fact that it's so clear.
Yeah, so when you're further north and you're higher in elevation, you don't get as much organic matter in the cold alpine lakes. They're glacier fed, the water's frozen most of the year, so you don't have any algae. That produces oxygen that can produce bubbles. It can produce nuclei for the ice to form on, and that can all create the clouds. Also, when you get the ripples, you get air bubbles in there, and a lot of times a lake will partially freeze and then it gets blown apart, gets blown by the wind, and then that kind of stacks up, and that's where you can get air in it as well.
There's so much involved, and also lack of wind, right? You can tell it's super calm. And it's amazing to me as well to think that this is ice that's thickness is suitable for skating and winter sports like that. Let's talk a little bit about this. Kevin, folks, is an avid ice fisher. Now, what would this do to your ice fishing game? I feel like the fish would see you from a mile away.
Well, they can see me from a mile away, but I can see them from a mile away too, and they can't really escape, and they're a little more coaxable. So, yeah, with the skating, you don't need exactly a thick amount of ice. A few inches is all you need, and when it forms this calmly, you know the ice thickness is going to be very consistent right across. So you don't have to worry about the shallow bays where the bottom can be a little darker. It might melt a little quicker in the shallower areas, but for the formation, that's a pretty safe skating environment.
Let's show you the video one more time. And to me, it honestly looks like a skating rink has literally formed in the middle of a valley, but this is quite high above sea level, you say. And an amazing find, a rare find. People are saying a once-in-a-decade type find.
Yeah, you can find them in some alpine lakes in BC, anywhere across the Rockies, really. Colorado gets it, in places in California. It's very rare to see it on a bigger body of water, like, say, Lake Tahoe is very clear. You can see very deep. There's spring-fed lakes in northern Manitoba. Thinking about Whitefish Lake near the Paw. Those lakes are kind of a good setup for it, but it's very hard to get a lake of size to remain calm for that duration of time.
And incredible when you talked about the fact that there's not a lot of murkiness and mud in what you're seeing there. You're looking down at geologic features that are maybe tens of thousands of years old. So much to unpack with this mesmerizing video of this amazing ice spectacle. We'll show it to you again right before we leave. Kevin, thank you for helping us with this breakdown.